Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is a very exciting one because I have a little introduction to make. This is my daughter and her name is Lennon Paige. I don't know if you can see her, but yeah, this is her. She's arrived. We're so excited. So this video is going to be my labor and delivery story. I want to start off by saying that I think all birth is beautiful and amazing, and whichever way you birth your baby is perfect. Everyone does things a little bit differently, but I just want to start by saying, like, I support every kind of birth. I decided to have a 100% natural birth with no interventions or medications, which was intense but also really amazing, and I'm so proud of my body and myself for doing it. So yeah, this is my labor and delivery story. So I have notes on my phone because the entire experience is a little bit blurry and scattered, so I'm just going to try and not ramble too much and just explain my story. So I want to start off by saying I did early labor for a long time. I did almost 2 days of early labor, so that's labor before active labor, and that was really hard and tiring before actually being in active labor. So what happened was I started having contractions on Thursday, October 19th. I woke up in the morning and I was, having some decent contractions. They were definitely different than any of the Braxton Hicks I had before. And they were actually pretty consistent, but not close enough. But they were around every 7 to 8 minutes. And I would have the odd one that was closer together, and they were lasting around 45 seconds to a minute. So I gave my midwife a call just to let her know that things were possibly happening. I didn't really think I was in labor necessarily, but I thought something was happening. So I just let her know. Daniel had already gone to work, and so she actually suggested that he come home, just because she said, even if baby's not born today, if you do this all day by yourself, you're going to be really exhausted, and it would be good to have a support person with you so you don't get tired out. So I gave him a call and he came home, which was awesome. We went for a walk, we went to the mall. They stayed pretty consistently at around 7 minutes apart, and they weren't really getting a lot more intense, so I went to bed. In the middle of the night, I lost a lot of my mucus plug, and I also started having some bloody show. So every time I went to the bathroom after that, until she was born, I was bleeding. So I went back to bed, and I was waking up from the contractions, but not every single one. So I did sleep that night, but like a couple hours. Friday morning, I woke up and I decided to call my midwife and let her know about the bloody show. And also, when I woke up in the morning, my contractions were around 5 to 6 minutes apart. So they were closer together and they were actually more intense. So I let her know, and she said, awesome, give me a call if they get closer together or you're having a hard time kind of dealing with them. So I said, okay. So I kind of labored through the day. And we again went for more walks, went to the mall again, walked around the mall. They were starting to pick up. So they were around, I want to say probably like 4 to 5 minutes apart when I called my midwife. So I called her at around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So the early morning until the afternoon, I just kind of labored. So at 4 o'clock, she came to my house and she checked me. And I was around 3 centimeters dilated and 95% effaced. So that was progress, which is awesome, but it was also a little bit tiring because I felt like I was in labor already for like a day, almost 2 days, and I was only 3 centimeters. So that was like sort of sad, but I was also really proud of my body that I had made progress and I knew something was actually happening. So she told me to just keep on kind of doing what I was doing. She said I could go for a walk if I wanted, but she was gonna head back to the office and we would call her again when they got closer together. So at around 6 o'clock, we went for a walk, and we live on a lake. So we live like right on a park that is like a big walk. So we decided to do that, and she said to call her if they were closer together, or like at this point I was still dealing in between really well. So like I would have a contraction and it was really hard, but then in between my contractions I was happy and joking and like talking and hanging out, and then again a contraction would come and it would be really hard, but I was fine in between. So she said to call her if I wasn't fine in between. So during the walk, when we started the walk, my contractions were around 4 minutes apart, lasting for a minute. And by the end of the walk, they were 2 minutes apart, lasting for 1.5 minutes. So that really bumped them up. And probably around halfway through the walk to 3/4 of the way, I switched from the I'm okay in between to like I was completely focused through every contraction and in between. So the walk actually took quite a while because my contractions were so close together and I had to completely stop for every contraction and breathe through it. So we probably got back to my house, even though the walk is only like usually a half an hour walk. We started at 6 and we weren't home until around 7:30 or 8, around there. And like I said, the contractions were around 2 minutes apart. So we had some food. We decided to eat some dinner. My dad brought us Wendy's, which was awesome and kind of hilarious that I ate Wendy's while in labor, but cool. And we gave my midwife a call. So she came at around 8 o'clock. I got checked again at around 9 o'clock. So between the time my midwife came, she was just checking baby every 15 minutes and stuff. And I was just still having contractions. But yeah, at around 9 o'clock, she checked me and I was now 4 centimeters dilated. So at around 9 o'clock is when I transitioned into active labor. So I did early labor from all day Thursday on all day Friday until around 9 o'clock p.m. on Friday. So that was October 20th. So yeah, at around 9 o'clock, they started to get a lot more intense. And so I started to have a harder time kind of like dealing with them, but I was still doing okay, but it was definitely like getting harder. And at around 10 o'clock, I was definitely like having a hard time kind of coping. So I talked with Daniel and I decided to try to get into the shower because I thought maybe that would help. Throughout this whole time, like Daniel was freaking amazing, and like I definitely couldn't have done it naturally without him. Because when they did start to get more intense, he was really good at just making sure I remained calm and didn't like panic. So if I started to kind of like escalate it all, he would bring me back down. So he thought the shower would be a good idea. So I walked over to the bathroom and I started throwing up. So for those of you that don't really have experience with labor or birth or anything, when you start throwing up, it's actually a pretty good sign. It's crappy, but it means you're getting close. So a lot of the time that can mean you're starting to kind of get into transition, which I kind of started feeling like that's what was happening. Okay, what's going on? Yeah, so I started throwing up and I still thought maybe I should try and go into the shower and see if that would help. So I got into the shower. I did probably like 5 or 6 contractions and my midwife came into the bathroom and she said that my sounds had changed, and she was just basically asking how I was doing, if I was okay. And like maybe a minute before she came in, I looked at Daniel and I said, I think we should maybe go to the hospital soon. Like, I think we got to get there. So she came in and I told her the same thing. I said, I think that we should probably go to the hospital. And it wasn't necessarily that I thought, like, I didn't think I could handle it, but it was like, I knew that the drive was going to be really hard. and I thought that at the place I was in currently, it was gonna be hard to handle. So if I waited a lot longer, I didn't know if I could do it. So she agreed with me, and so she said, Kate, let's get out of the shower and let's pack our bags up, put them in the car, and head to the hospital. We left for the hospital at around 11 o'clock p.m. So the hospital drive was only around 3.5 minutes, and I actually had 5 contractions in the car. So it was really intense, and they were like back to back. So they were, I definitely knew we made the right choice in going to the hospital. We ended up getting up to labor and delivery at around 11:30 p.m.-ish. It took a while for me to walk from the ER to labor and delivery because my contractions were so close. So yeah, we actually got in at around 11:30, and we kind of got settled in a little bit there, and then my midwife suggested that I try to do a couple contractions sitting on the toilet. So I agreed, but she said that it would help me to progress. Also, she checked me when we got to the hospital, and I was at around a 7 or 8. So I definitely was in the beginning part of transition. So yeah, so she checked me, and then I got onto the toilet. So I did probably 2 contractions on the toilet, and I was like over it. I asked, and so I said, can I please come off like the toilet? And she was like, yeah, you can come off, you can do what you need. So I got off, and at this point, I started to feel like I needed to push. So my water hadn't broken yet. So what I was feeling when I thought I needed to push was actually my bag of water bulging through. So it felt like her head, but it wasn't her head. So that was making it really hard for me to not push, but I wasn't supposed to push yet. So my midwife suggested that I put the peanut ball in between my legs and kind of like lay on my side. And I was starting to like really have a hard time not getting upset, kind of. Like I was trying really hard to still stay calm, but it was getting really hard. So she said to me, okay, like I'm gonna make you a deal. If you do 5 contractions with the peanut ball on each side, if your water hasn't broken, I'll break it by then. And the reason she hadn't broken it earlier was because the baby had kind of been flipping back and forth, and we weren't 100% positive if she was in the right position or not. And so if she would have broken my water and she wasn't in the right position, that would be an issue. So we wanted her to try and break her water on her own so that she would be in the right position. But yeah, my midwife said that if I did 10 contractions, she would break it. So I did 5 contractions on my right side. And honestly, it was so freaking hard because I felt like I need to push so bad, like the whole time. And I kept saying, I'm trying so hard not to push, I'm trying so hard. And she was like, you're doing really good, like keep trying, you're doing awesome. And so I did 5, and they happened really fast because I was already so, like they were so close together. So then she's like, Kate, let's flip over to the other side. And I think I did 1 contraction on my other side, and then I was like, oh, I'm pushing. And like I was trying super hard not to push, but my body was just pushing. And so I kind of like pushed like a tiny bit, and my water broke. So I was like, ah, my water broke, oh my gosh, finally. I was super happy. And then things happened fast. So basically, once I flipped over and my water broke, I felt like the pushing feeling intensified even more than it already had. So I said to her like, okay, I need to push now. And she was like, okay. So she started pushing the call button for the nurse because basically like nobody else was in there at that point. It was just my midwife and my birth support team. So there was no nurses, and like we needed a nurse in there technically. So she told me, Kate, I need you to try not to push for like another minute. Just like try really hard. So I was like, okay. So I was like breathing through it, trying really hard not to push. And then all of a sudden I just like I had been very like kind of calm, and then I looked at her and she was like at the bottom of the bed, and I looked at her and I was like, I'm pushing now. And she was like, okay. So I pushed and her head came out, and like right then the nurse came in. So thank God the nurse came in at that point. But yeah, I pushed once and her head was out. So basically right after that, I had like a pause. So her head was out. Our plan was that Daniel would catch the baby. So since everything was happening really quickly, all of a sudden she kind of like looks at Daniel and she's like, okay, you need to come down now. And I don't know, just like the chaos of everything, Daniel was like, I'm kind of busy, because I was like holding on to him. And then I look at him like, no, it's okay, go, like go down now. So he's like, okay. And like right then he got down, and I got a contraction, and I pushed one more time and her body came out. So I actually only pushed, like actual pushing, 2 times. And from the time that my water broke to her being born was 4 minutes. So like I said, after my water broke, it happened really quickly. So yeah, basically I was actually in active labor for only 4.5 hours. And like I said, I pushed for 4 minutes, under 4 minutes. And she was here. So yeah, like I said in the beginning, her name is Lennon Paige Maragliano. And she weighed 7 pounds and 0 ounces when she was born. She was 20 inches long, and her head was 13 inches long, or 13 inches around. So she's a little cute bean. And honestly, like the experience was so amazing, and I'm so proud of myself and Daniel and like how everything went. It went better than we could have ever expected it to go. And yeah, we went home the same day because I was feeling really good and ready to go. So yeah, now she's a week and a half, and I cannot believe how fast time is going already. But yeah, that's my natural labor and delivery story. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions for me at all, please comment down below, and I'll be happy to answer them. And yeah, that's basically it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!